I was just watching Bro Sanchez live. It's a pretty active chat forum. Talking about flat Earth, obviously. I was hoping to get on and debate with him. I had some good points to make. One thing is that we need to establish a circle, like a round table, of people who have accumulated research over the years, people who are actually mature and want to come to solution instead of just regurgitating facts over and over and over again, giving your opinion, which are all coming to the exact same conclusions, because our end goal is not resolution. I mean, we may act like it's a resolution, but it's actually not what we're exhibiting. We're not exhibiting that we want a solution, you know? What we're showing is that we just want to boost our own ego. We just want more people to talk to us. And not you specifically, bro. I'm talking about everyone in general. I'm guilty of it too. That's why I'm able to speak from experience. You know? But as you grow and you mature, you get away from these things. You know, that's how the elites are ruling, because they do this. They all get together and they all share their views. They let each other talk. They do this for a long period of time. They don't just get on for a couple of minutes. So I think we need to do is establish a round table. It's the only thing that makes sense, because that's how they're winning. Yes, they've got money, but that's how they got the money. Affiliated with the royals, and they started making their way up. I don't know who's in control now. It's kind of like on Gotham. You know, you're like, oh, who's really in control of Gotham? And then you think it's the fucking... Then you think it's the... what is it? The group of owls? No, it's not. What is it? A crowd of owls? No. Fuck's sakes. Anyways, you think it's one of the higher up fucking echelons groups. But it's really not. You know, it's higher up than that. There's more going on. And religion is what's being used to hide all this. And they got all these different, you know, offshoot religions. They just make it even more confusing. There's nothing worse than one person having a construct and then building on that construct and then sharing it around the world, and then everyone else jumping on board, getting on that wagon. It's ridiculous. Or jumping on that ship, right? Because when you fall off the wagon, you're back on it. But maybe y'all need to fall off that wagon, that disinformation train. You know, before it goes off at a fucking cliff. Looks like there's dynamite on that track. You might want to check it before he gets on the train. You might want to check your ticket to see where it's headed to. It's a big issue. No one really knows where they're going. They're just walking. They're breathing, but they don't know why. They're eating, but they don't know why. You know? They're dressed in a certain way, and you don't even know why. You think you're dressing because you want to look like people on TV. You think this looks nice, but you're not even paying attention to the colors, the way it's conforming to you. Half people ain't even dressing for the weather. They got everyone so fucking confused on every single aspect of their life. It's like a fucking spider web. Why do you think they call it the World Wide Web? Think because everything connects like a spider web? No, it's so they can confuse us. Got everyone thinking that they knows what they're talking about. I'm included. You know, I'll put this on my head, right? Thinking I knows what I'm talking about. But I tell you what, I at least got an open mind about everything, and I don't have any conclusions. You know, all I have is what I can figure out from here, and I know that those are still just clues. It's like an ongoing, everlasting game of Clue. Problem is, no one actually clues in. I know Bro Sanchez is too busy to chime in, but that's cool. I'm hoping is for those who are the weak-minded. May he view this, or someone send him to it, or may he actually have seen what I wrote. You know, he's one person who I think actually has an awake, open mind and has researched in depth. Someone like Matt Langdon or like Crow, 777. If they could get away from the shillness of it, stop trying to make money from people. Like, it's ridiculous. You can't think you're any better than the rest of these shills. You're still just making money off of what you claim is truth, which is really not, because it's just a bunch of compartmentalized disinformation, bunch of indoctrination. You're just spreading indoctrination around. You're like a newspaper agency. Huh? And YouTube is just giving you the ability to do it. It's fucking hilarious. Something popped up then, but I don't know, read it, Yeah, it's just like flickering. Sorry if I'm not replying to you, bro. It's just fucking not coming up. Maybe it's because I got low battery. I don't fucking know. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. People are claiming they know what they're talking about when it's not really getting us further ahead. What's going to get us further ahead is actually, figuring out exactly what we know. And then once you figure out what you know, then you can figure out what you don't know. And then you can figure out that. But until you figure out what you don't know, you're just going to be stuck talking about what you think you know. Running around in circles. Which is what the spider web is. It's a circle. It starts in the center and it slowly makes its way out into a spiral. That's what it is. The web is a spiral. The internet is a spiral. It's a fucking rabbit hole. It might as well be called Alice or Wonderland. Because that's what it is. It's like the manifestation of our own consciousness. What it would be like if we all ate right, drank right, weren't oppressed on every angle, which starts with our own constructs that we build, allow for this oppression to happen, allow for triggers. There should be no triggers. No one should have any triggers. The fact that anybody has a trigger, boom, the moment you notice, the moment you just get set off, you should look at that and you should analyze it and reflect and be like, why was I set off just then? Once you do that, you can start to grow. Do the same thing with your questions and your supposed, the conclusions you've come to, right? You don't need to worry about is it right or wrong. Just come to a conclusion. Then take that conclusion, see how it works, put it out into play, have conversations with people, test that against other knowledge that is out there that is similar, to, like, say you want to figure out what's in that cup. Well, don't go talk to people who don't know that there's a cup, or people that haven't looked in their own cup, right? So just like that with other subjects, you need to. It's just like when you're trying to get coaching on something. You don't go to, say you're playing hockey. You don't go to someone who hasn't played hockey before, just to someone who just watches hockey. No, you go to someone who's actually spent time. That's why the institutions that are set up around here that are teaching people stuff ain't really teaching people shit. Because most y'all ain't even experienced in it enough to teach you anything. That's how it started out. It used to be like, oh, well, an experienced person will teach you how to work. Then they're like, oh, well, we can assimilate that and turn it into a corporation where we can make all kinds of money from people by watering down the information and then making them think that that's the truth. Nothing could be more far from that. It's a whole bunch of disinformation. If you haven't figured that out yet, then come on. Even when we were in school, before we knew about any of this control grid, this whole matrix, before we knew about any of this, we would be like, man, why we learn this information? When is this going to be useful? You're like, man, we learned this last year. This is the exact same thing over and over and over. You're learning to repeat stuff. You're learning to be told the same thing over and over so that you can regurgitate it. That's what you're being taught, is how to regurgitate information, how to follow orders. Didn't know I had these views. That's pretty sick. I'm trying to read your messages, bro, but it's really not letting me. This is ridiculous. It's just like popping up. Yeah, I don't like having this much air. Oh, that's pretty burnt. What time is it? Still got time. Fuck, this is not working out because I can't see the messages coming up. I can't even respond to what you're saying, bro. Anyways, speaking of different stuff, it was a supposed blue moon last night. Or was it the night before? The night before. Apparently some people told me it was last night. See, that's how, like, how could you think it was last night when it was definitely the night before? Just tells you that what they're telling us is a bunch of shit. That's why they call it a blood moon. Because they want you to be scared. I agree with that one. That's what Crow said, and I agree with that. It does make you want to feel scared. Because that's what everything is about. Draining your energy. Because that's what I think this society is run by. These entities. These energy draining. That's where the vampire term came from, you know? And then everything just expanded out from there. It's basically where I think a lot of these things come from. They just derive from one idea and then they get expanded, like religion, right? Start out with one idea. Where did we come from? Explain some of the things that either people didn't have the right explanation for because they were just using symbology and it wasn't an in-depth, you know, like say like people used to look up to the stars and then look up to the moon and someone said, oh, what's that moon? They say, oh, that's just an egg, right? Well, then as the generations came up, you know, people would start to question. They'd be like, well, it's not an egg. What really is it? Right? And then you get people that branch off with different ideas. But it doesn't mean that either of them are right. And we can never figure out what it is until you physically go up there and just land on it and look at it and start to analyze it. And even then, you're only being able to analyze it with the, you know, the measuring tools that we have here, the mechanisms that we have here. It's, you know, it's just like when people talk about space math, you know, they try to use physics, like they try to use Earth physics and then relate it to space. That's absolutely ridiculous. How can you measure something on Earth and then act like it's going to relate up in space? You need to go up in space and then do the test up there to know if it works. It's ridiculous. That's like doing something on land, in air, and then expecting it to be the same in water. Now, yes, we can go in water and test, but what if we didn't go in the water and test? How would we fucking know? We could speculate, right? Remember when you put a straw through the water and it looks like the straw's cut in half? Shows you that our eyes can be tricked, that there's spaces in between, there's things that we're not seeing that allow for there to be an illusion there. That's why that you can be tricked so easily. You know, why people can be hypnotized, because they're already being programmed. If you weren't being programmed so much and you weren't already in such a hypnotic state, I don't think, now it's just me, you know, theorizing, I don't think that a hypnotist would be able to hypnotize you as well if you weren't already in this trance-like state on a daily basis, either through sitting down at your devices and just staring at them constantly, or being at work doing repetitive tasks, or even home doing repetitive tasks. You get in this state and then all of a sudden it's like when you're just doing something, these weird things start popping into your head. It's because you're doing shit that you, yeah, it may be some stuff you need to get done, but when you think about it in the core root of things, you don't need to do. Like, I clean this place way too often. Why do I do it? Because I think, well, you know, I come up with reasons and I justify it. But really, they're just justifications. They're not really solid answers, because if I didn't clean this house for a day or two, nothing would happen. I could then clean it again. It would take me, I would probably be able to save time if I only clean this house once every 3 days. So, you know, like say it takes me 15 minutes to clean the house every single day, but then if I only do it once every 3 days and it only takes me 20 minutes, well then I just saved, right, 25 minutes. So it makes you wonder, you know, why you do stuff. because you get used to doing stuff. Now sometimes, cleaning helps work things out. There's nothing wrong with that. I get that. I got 2 kitties, so we need to sweep and stuff. We live in an apartment. These are things you do, but a lot of it is constructs. Oh man, my parents are the worst when it comes to that specific thing. Always go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that. It's like, you don't need to mow your lawn every 8 days. Just because the grass just started to grow. Let it fucking grow. Jesus. No wonder it burns half the time. Not to mention the chemtrails and the herbicides, pesticides, all the crap that's in it. You don't let it grow long enough. How do you expect something to be able to defend itself if it's not strong? Doesn't make any sense. Speaking about plants, I think that's one thing they got in people's heads. This is how they demonize weed. They got their propaganda out there, the propaganda machine. But then also, when it comes to the plants, they got people thinking that they don't need weeds in their garden. So then they think that all weeds are bad. When in actual fact, weeds are herbs. Weeds help us. There are so many different weeds that are in your garden and out nearby in the forest around where you live, in every part of the world, that can be broken down. You can just put some alcohol in with them, let them sit for 24 hours, couple of days, and take that, and you can use it to heal wounds. You can use it to help cure fever, draw things out of your skin and stuff and out of your body, help with digestive. There's so many different things that you can do that we don't know because we're not being taught it, or because society isn't geared around nurturing those ideas. Right? So here we are, have to use the spiral, this fucking hypnotic trance of a internet that we have to go and try and figure things out, while you got people that got the information 9 chances out of 10 are just boosting their ego. And then when they finally figure out that, hey, I'm just boosting my ego, and then they start to change things, then the game is already changed. So they're still trying to keep up while all this is happening. And then lo and behold, their life works out okay, so that they can actually be online doing stuff like this, or even be able to speak out. Who knows what could happen to someone? They could get shut up. They could get bought out. They could just lose interest in it because they feel like, everyone's against them. I'm sure if you're in the activism realm, you've all felt that at least one time. I think what's good to do is to find out what you like, what makes you happy. Do those things, and continually do those things, even if they don't bring you any achievements. If you, because that's what society does. It makes you think, oh, well, if you didn't get first in this, or you don't achieve this and that, then you're no good at that and you shouldn't do it anymore. No, these are expressions of us, your creativity, or whatever it is that you do, whether it's just going out in nature and, looking at birds or taking pictures and stuff and then putting it up online. Just because someone says, oh, what do you do that for? You waste your time. No, you're not. Don't listen to what anyone says. They're just self-directing. They're reflecting themselves on you. They're letting you know, they're letting the world know that deep down they have things that they haven't worked through yet, and they get expressed through the conversations that they have with other people when constructs come up, and they get this cognitive dissonance switch that just, for some reason they haven't worked through this emotion, through this thought form, and they don't know how to deal with it, so they get aggressive, because things aren't nurtured. We're not nurtured. We're not raised, and especially not in this side of the world, unless you've got a really tight family, big, tight family, which Newfoundland used to be big, and is not so much anymore. I used to think it was. I got a big family. I thought we were all tight. Yeah, right. Now I understand what it means to be tight, and we didn't do any of the things to be tight, Even the ones that I think that are tight, they don't even do anything to be tight. They're all just fucking going on to get along, What a way to live. I'd seriously rather not. Oh, she's powering off.